That's kind of calculus, you know,
Mm.
and you're trying to teach a kid calculus and they don't even know arithmetic.
What is your real quick story? How did you get into coaching? You know, were you an athlete before this? Did you just
Yeah.
jump straight into coaching? What's your experience there?
So I was an athlete, not the greatest of athletes, but wanted, I saw all of these, like my role models or my guys that I loved was like Carl Lewis and Mike Powell, and I always wanted to be like them. And I had videotape, and I ran that videotape till it was like so thin. I know the kids not understanding what that means right now because everything's digital,
Right.
but I just watched it and watched and watched it.
Yeah.
And luckily, my first time watching like almost a track meet was when Carl Lewis and Mike Powell went to battled in Tokyo. That was like my first experience. So
No
I feel
way.
like blessed that I
Right.
had that to see, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was really like geeked out to be like one of these guys and everything. But I didn't have the engine, but I wanted to try my best to be
Absolutely.
form wise, just everything wise.
Yeah.
And I tried my best. I had a great high school coach. I was a Division III athlete in high school,
Right.
so I didn't go to a big school or anything like that. And I was
Okay.
blessed. Like one time, I used to work out over the summer, and this one guy just came over. It was like magical. It was a decathlete guy that went to OSU,
Hmm.
and he was training for the '92 Olympic Games. Yeah, I said '92. That's a that's a while ago, and he just saw me and just saw like I was kind of really dedicated
Yeah.
to track. And that guy, his name's Mark Spitzer. I still talk to him to this day. Uh, really showed me and gave me that boost to make it not competitive, yes, but make it into an art form
Right.
and just enjoy it and love it, and
Love the
taught me
sport.
so much stuff about track and field. So Mark Spitzer was a big thing that got me the love of track and field. And then my high school coach, Coach Darrell Bell, really showed me a great time and everything. But so I had all of that love for track and field.
Yeah.
In high school and in college, I had a great coach, Coach Welsh. He was fantastic at Otterbein, a Division III school in
Mm.
Westerville. And so after I was done with college, and I went to school in athletic training. And I initially got into athletic training because I wanted to know kind of like the science and injury prevention and everything. And I was kind of selfish. I just kind of wanted to learn it for myself.
Right. Right.
Little did I know it was just going to help me out for the rest of my career and my life.
Yeah.
And so I was very selfish at that point, but now I see it as like, man, these were the roots to everything that was going to come. So all my great teachers over there, Jackie Buell, Joan Rocks, all of those people just really took this kid that probably was just a kind of a punk kind of kid, and took me in and showed me so much love and all of that stuff. I wasn't going to become pro or anything like that after a 21, 22 foot long jumper isn't going to turn pro.
Sure.
I took all of these little seeds that everybody's planted in me, and I really wanted to make a difference in the young athletes' lives. So I got right into coaching after I got done in school. So
Okay. So you started with high school or middle school, or
I
went
did
straight into
start in high
college?
school. I started at Worthington Christian High School,
Okay.
and I spent and now it's kind of crazy. I forget how many seasons I spent there, but I'll just say I went to Worthington Christian. And then I went to Otterbein College, and then just most recently did my coaching over at OSU. And now I was working with Mike Hartfield. He turned pro
Yep.
after I coached him at OSU, so I worked with him. And
You.
now I'm coaching at Dublin Scioto High School with my wife. She is the
Okay.
head coach for girls over there.
Sweet.
And so I'm my role is kind of a long jump coach right now over there.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool. Just this is the whole transition. I just
Yeah.
where I've been, it's fantastic. So, but I cannot screw up, because if I screw up, I have to hear it
from it from the head coach.
But no, it's really cool. So I'm blessed because my wife has had a tremendous career in coaching, and I
Yeah.
missed a lot of that at OSU, traveling and doing all that
Sure.
stuff. So now it's just really cool to see my wife's success, being kind of home a lot now, and now being coaching with her. It's just really cool, and I'm just so happy.
Yeah, that's awesome. How does it differ going from coaching, Division 1 and then elite to coaching high school? I'm sure
So
terms have to change and
somewhat, and it's funny because all of these kind of job interviews that I've done, I mean, I remember coming from Otterbein and job interviewing at OSU, and the thing was, so do you understand how to coach a Division 1 athlete, because they're different and everything like that. And from D3, I mean, well, not like you, I mean, you could actually have jumped with us. I mean, at OSU, it would have been great if we would have had you on the team as well. You would have had a lot of fun. But I get that question a lot. Like, what you have to know what spectrum of athlete that you have on the talent pool, but you coach. There's commonalities between like an Olympian versus like a high school athlete. You just have to know what kind of engine they have, and do very, very similar things. I always use the thing when I've done job interviews from D3 to D1 or D1 to D3. I always go back to that Hoosiers line. When they're about to play the state championship, coach has them measure out the hoop, and it's 10 feet. And it's just like, the track is 400 meters. The board is like 8 inches. It all depends on what kind of engine you have. So we got to get away from all of this almost specialization and think more generality with coaching. And I think when people get into that, we get away from all these gimmicks and just talk. I mean, there's just so many words are very important, and I've just discovered that just hearing a lot of things. And I'm kind of blessed to be with different teams because part of my I'm also a massage therapist, so I work with the Columbus Crew, and I do a lot of things at Division 1 for massage with them. So I hear. So I've been in a lot of locker rooms, so I have a very diverse understanding of sport. And if you look at a lot of things, they're what we call motor primitives, which basically means there's a lot of things in different sports that are the same. You look at somebody, you look at an acceleration from a soccer player, football player, it's very similar to a track athlete, and vice versa. So we can't always think about specialization. We have to think in very general terms. And I know that sounds contradictory right now because everybody's so uber specialized, but it would almost be like in the 100 meters to have like a coach for the blocks and then a coach for the acceleration and then a coach for max velocity. That's kind of what coaching is right now. And you can't connect the dots, and you have to look at the whole thing opposed to just little pieces of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So in the most simplest form, then what would you say is kind of like your approach to breaking down a season, as far as like, there's a lot of different methods, obviously, but what would you say yours is after?
I kind of try to do like a reverse engineering with it. So I kind of look at like where we'd like to be. So especially like for high school right now, June is the month, so you kind of work backwards from there. So instead of working on like day 1 and then working towards June, I go from June and then work backwards to kind of get everything covered in there. Because a lot of things, like when you just go from first day to you can miss some stuff, or you have to like over budget some things and like that. So that's kind of what I go with the season. So generally, I mean, I always go general prep, try to get a lot of good foundation to the sport and everything, and that's doing jump training specifically for getting stronger with it. So jump training, like we would do, so for instance, we would do 10 hurdle takeoffs times 10 hurdles. So you're getting almost 100 takeoffs, okay,
Wow. Yeah.
in that session.
Yeah.
And like I tell the athletes, like you couldn't take 100 long jumps, but you just did that right now.
Yeah.
But we're not doing like mileage or anything like that. We're being very kind of, and I don't want to say, we are being specific
Specific. Yeah.
to a
Right.
specific point,
Right.
but how you build general strength is doing those certain things.
Right.
And you'll see it later in like if you look at hurdle takeoffs, that's exactly what you should look like when you take off from the board.
Right.
And then we mix in acceleration, max velocity, and then go to speed endurance. So I try to start general and then specific. And then in competition, it's about maintenance.
Yeah.
We can all write fancy stuff. And Lord knows, like, I mean, and sometimes like we start to like write some stuff and it's like, is this applicable to what really needs to be done?
Yeah.
Is it things that we would like to do or that we need to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I always try to get away from the like to do's,
Yeah.
like all the Instagram stuff that, is
Right.
out there and that has no context in what we're trying to accomplish.
Right.
Or trying to do what we need to do. And what we need to do isn't always the sexiest thing,
Right. Right.
training isn't that sexy. I mean, it's like lifting a lot. You go in little increments. You're not going to have this huge thing, and
Man.
and sometimes I don't want to say it's boring, but you have to be in the moment at those points to know that each and everything that you're trying to accomplish right now is going to mean something at the end of the season.
Wow. Yeah. I think that's the key right there is looking
Yeah.
to the end of the season. And that's the whole point. Like you don't need to be fast in the beginning of the season.
Right.
As far as, I mean, like your 100% peak performance,
Right.
but yeah.
And with that, a lot of my mentors like Boo Schexnayder, Dan Paff, Gary Winkler, Vern Gambetta, a lot of these people,
Yeah.
and I'm probably a lot of people, but those everybody knows that those are kind of my guys and everything like that.
Yeah.
They're also, and that's why I align myself with their philosophies and everything, because each and everything that they're trying to do, injury prevention is transparent in their training. It's not
Interesting.
like you just train and then you just send people to the trainer. It's
Right.
not like you have this machine and you just put athletes in it and just see what gets spit out at the end. That's not what it's all about. Injury prevention is what makes athletics fast and good,
Yeah.
and you can well. It's
Yep.
not like you just do all of these activities and then like, okay, just get repaired. No, it's not
Right.
that.
Yep.
In training it has to be very transparent with injury prevention, and that's why I
Right.
align myself up with all these guys that
Yeah.
I really look to in coaching.
And I think track and field is unique in that way that like we're trying to push the body to like its peak in a very specific movement, whereas like with soccer or football or something, like you're going all out but your
Yeah.
muscles are resting and being used in different ways, so it's not like just that all out using that one muscle that way.
Exactly. And not to say anything about team sports and everything like that, but in track and field, like you can't hide.
Yeah.
Like you can't hide. I mean,
Absolutely.
results.
Yep.
I mean, it's a very objective type of thing. It's definitely not subjective.
Absolutely.
So like if you're fast or if you're not fast
Right.
or whatever. So there, you cannot hide at a meet.
Yeah.
You are going to be exposed.
Yep.
And a lot of people talk. They have a bigger master. The muscles that make your jaw work. They're
Yeah.
a lot faster than their legs. So
Yep.
I've seen a
Yep.
lot of that too.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh man. Totally, 100% though. And it is one of the beautiful things about track and field. Like you said, the divisions kind of matter a lot less too, because you can compare across divisions, with almost little to no variables in there. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. So how many years have you been coaching? We won't do the math and figure out how old you are, but
Yeah. I think this is like without So, I mean, technically last year I really didn't do anything, but
Okay.
like we'll say, oh, well, I mean, last year I did a coaches clinic. So I've been trying to almost get a little bit more into coaching education. So I still think that's a little bit of
Interesting.
coaching, but
Yeah.
we'll say 21 years of doing
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
Yeah, 21,
Wow,
21.
21 years. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So, how would you say, or what are a couple of the biggest things that you learned over the time that are like completely different from how you thought when you first started?
I would probably say that when I first started, I kind of wanted to be um, almost the puppet master. Like I almost felt like if I wasn't a part of everything that the athlete did,
Yeah.
that it wasn't good, and I wasn't giving them enough autonomy
Mm.
to explore. It's kind of funny. Like right now, I have a son a little over a year, and just watching his motor patterns and everything like that. Like I just kind of step back because
Mm.
I don't want to stop him from learning. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
thing that I felt like when I was younger, I tried to get everybody, like I was controlling it way too much.
Mm.
Every athlete had to ask me, you know, what how many feedback their steps were for their long jump, and I had it all, which is fantastic, but
Right.
they didn't have any ownership of it. I had it
Mm.
all.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
right now, like I want athletes to own their practices. I want them to own a lot of things.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I'd probably say a lot of my problems was like I was very drill oriented. Like I thought drills equal skills,
Ooh,
and it
interesting.
really it doesn't work that way. A drill is, as Boo Schexnayder says, is the classroom, but you're the teacher.
Mm.
Just a drill for drill's sake is not going to lead to that skill.
Hmm.
So that's one thing I've kind of gotten away from, and really trying to give, like what we were just talking about before this started. We have it in our minds what we want, but the verbiage
Yeah.
to get that, and doing like using cues
Yeah.
to get an
Yep.
athlete to really do what you kind of like them to do, and get them in like positions and all of that, landmarks,
Yeah.
on the track where you really want them. So kind of giving cues that the athlete can understand, and it's individualized for so many people. It's almost like that Mr.
That's
Miyagi
interesting.
thing, you
Yeah.
know. Miyagi like gave the perfect cues because they were so external,
Yeah.
and Daniel had no clue what was going on, but until
Yeah.
he finally got it and everything. That's probably, I know it's cheesy, but that's probably the best form of coaching right there, is
Yeah.
taking something that somebody knows
Yeah.
and then uses it to apply in a different domain.
Right, right. Almost, yeah, like having them kind of like check their mind out of track and field or whatever you're trying to do. Because like with the wax on, wax off or whatever,
Yeah,
that has nothing to do with karate, but it had
right.
everything to do with karate.
Right, right. Well, a lot of times, and like when you come off of the board, and you see it a lot, like in high school and everything like that. An athlete will just want to shoot out their legs, kind of like to get in like a pike position,
Right.
but they
Yep.
really never go for like the flight phase.
Extent.
The
Yeah.
takeoff, extension, yeah, free leg, like the free leg falls and everything
Yeah.
like that. So, I mean, I'll have athletes, and I'll just say, "Have you ever done a layup?" And
Mm.
they say, yeah. And I say, just do a layup and feel that. When
Yeah.
they do a layup, they're not like kicking or doing crazy crap in the air and everything, because they
Yep.
know how to do it.
Right. Right.
And if they can correlate with something that they know, a motor pattern that they already know, and make it
That's
into a different
great.
domain
Yeah.
as long jump or triple jump or any of the jumps,
Right.
that's what you want. Because I could say cues all day, but they're not going to understand, but they
Yeah.
understand how to do a layup.
Yep.
So get that in their minds, and then they're just like, oh, that's what it is.
Yep.
And I'm like, that it's that simple. A lot of athletes want to put chaos or complexity in, and it's really, they really need to get simplicity out of it.
Right, right. It's interesting too, like when you were talking about Instagram, like I see a lot of, coaches and athletes out there posting stuff and then using all the terminology and trying to, like kind of be fancy basically to show their knowledge. And I'm sure they have the knowledge, but it's like when it comes to somebody actually like consuming that and knowing what's going on, like you really want to break it down to the simplest form just so that it's actually like able to be understood. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff that they do might not even be like, it might not even correlate with the sport that they do. I mean, it's some of it is like, it can be really cool what they do and
Right,
everything
right.
like.
Yeah.
They're not showing the phases how they got to that point. It's not like you
Yes.
just get to that point.
Right.
You know, there is like what I see a lot with those sexy things, even though there's sometimes really do not make any sense in sports.
Yeah.
That's kind of calculus, and you're trying to teach a kid calculus and they don't even know arithmetic.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's like
Yes.
you're setting yourself up for failure, and
Mhm.
when they do that, they're probably not athletic enough to do it,
Right.
and it just leads to problems. It's like, what are we trying to do here?
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll start with, what would you say is the most common when you were at OSU and Otterbein? What were
Yeah.
the most common issues, for lack of a better word, that you saw coming from incoming freshmen, like that they had that you had to train out, or was it so unrelated?
Some have had like really good coaches,
Okay.
so there wasn't the coaches kind of left a good foundation a lot of times, but a lot of things that I've just noticed is, some kids don't really know how to compete at
Yeah.
the collegiate level, for
Yep.
for an athlete like in high school. I mean, we're starting right now and it's April,
Mhm.
okay, and we go to April to June, in
Yeah.
that little time frame. So,
Right.
at Otterbein, we would start up kind of our training like maybe a little bit before January, maybe December,
Oh,
which
okay.
isn't that long
Right.
for
Right. For
a full
college.
season. Now at OSU, we would start at like at August, September, and
Right.
our first would be in
January.
January or yeah. So a lot of people don't understand. It's a long haul, and the better you are, you're going to go further out with the
Sure.
season.
Right.
We've had freshmen that do very well, and it's just like they've doubled what they did in
Yeah.
high school as far as
Right.
the time that they've trained and everything like that. So I
Yeah.
think it has a lot to do with it, and some athletes like might not understand what it's like to like, they don't know that they don't even know, like
Yeah.
every like, and I told athletes every week at OSU, your meet is almost like your state meet.
Oh,
I
interesting.
mean,
Yeah.
it's like you guys are really good and you might have won your state meet in whatever state you were in, but there's 49 other states,
Yeah.
and that's who we're competing against every
Yep.
week.
Yeah.
So you know how it is in high school. Like, I mean, I had an athlete that could come out in high school and probably eat a Twizzlers and win a meet,
Yeah.
at like 22 feet or 23 feet, and that you won't even make a finals sometimes with that.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
he jumped 24 feet in high school, but like
Wow.
that was one time,
Right.
but like you do that consistently. So
Right.
I think it's a thing where you have to compete consistently and just be durable and know how long and really take care of your body.
Yeah.
A lot of these athletes, they'll go to massage for recovery. They'll do these guns, these
Oh
massage
yeah, the
guns.
like Theragun or whatever.
They'll do dry needling, but they won't sleep 8 hours a day.
Yep.
Or they won't eat properly, and it's just like, guys, I mean, and I'm a massage therapist, and I love what I do, but would you just sleep 8 hours? I mean,
Yeah.
empirical evidence shows that the best form of recovery is sleep and nutrition. So if you're not doing
Okay.
those things, like I
Yeah.
don't, massage, I don't. What do you guys? What are we doing here? So I
Right.
think another thing is to take care of your body as a freshman too.
Yeah.
Burning midnight oil at both ends. And I know that's a part of being a collegiate athlete, but knowing how to take care of your body is really key.
That's crucial. Yeah. I think I forget about that one too, as far as like, so I just started coaching high schoolers a couple of years ago. And,
Yeah.
that's kind of what's brought this on, is just like realizing how little I know about coaching, and just remembering that like the nutrition and the sleep, like how key that is. I don't even think about that because I'm so focused on the drills and the form and the technique.
Right, right. I mean, this is a key story, and I remember this very well. And I remember I'll just tell the story. Mike probably won't remember, but Mike, I think it was his sophomore year or junior year. I can't remember which. And we're doing drills, and he just looks crappy, man. Just
Yeah.
totally crappy. And I'm pissed, and I'm about to like go off on him and everything. So
Yeah.
I step him aside and everything because I just wanted to calm myself 1 second and just see what was good.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey man, is everything all right?" And he was just telling me that he was really stressed in the class and everything like that. And
Yeah.
he just started talking to me, and I was just like, "Yeah, I understand. I was there. I get it. Class. I mean,
Yeah.
and sometimes we just think of them as athletes, but you
Right.
have to look at the whole picture. There's a
Man.
lot of psychological things as well. I mean, he could have had a girlfriend problem or this or that. You just never know. So you got to look at everything. And after we talked about that, I mean, just talk. You had a
Yeah.
great practice. So
Nice.
it's those little things that you just can't. You have to kind of hold it for a second, and
Yeah.
just see what's going on, and just look at. It's not just an athlete that you're coaching.
Hmm.
It's psychological,
It's a human.
social, all of
Right.
that stuff involved and everything. And we got to be that. We got to understand that too.
That's super interesting to think about, like how the mind can have such an impact on the physical,
Oh
like,
yeah.
performance. So
Oh
like,
yeah. Yeah.
did you guys do a lot of like mental activities, or coaching, or just like general, like taking care of your athletes from that
Yeah, we
perspective?
had we had a coaching group come in called Focus Three,
Okay.
and they do a lot of stuff with football as well. And their like mantra or what they go is E plus R equals O. So your event plus your response equals your outcome.
Okay.
Okay, so you can't control your event and you cannot control your outcome. The only thing
Ah,
that you can get is your response. And
interesting.
how do you respond in these moments? Do
Yeah.
you respond like on purpose, skillful, and intentional, or do
Yeah.
you respond below the line where you're complaining about things, this and that?
Right.
So we call it controlling your R factor.
Oh,
And
nice.
that's the only thing that you have is your R factor and everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would probably say a mentality that's kind of how it is. So it's kind of all blueprinted. I mean, that's just a little bit of it, but I mean, it's very elaborate and everything like that. But it
Sure.
tries to get your mind right in the proper, in the moment, if you will,
Yeah.
and winning that moment. Not really being concerning about winning the meet and everything,
Yeah.
but win the next time that you're up on the runway.
Yeah.
Get all your phases correctly. Do that. If you do that, you have a chance to win your moment. So
Right.
that's a key thing, winning the moment. And if you do that consistently, you may win the meet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's key. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I remember even in high school, like our coach would always tell us, like, when, or even in college too, but like once you get to state or once you get to nationals, if you just hit the mark that it took to get there, a lot of
Yeah.
times you'll end up placing, but because so many people poop their pants when they get to the big meet, like, so
Yeah.
that
Yeah. That
consistency thing, that's interesting.
Yeah, that weight gets on you at those big meets, and it's almost like you have to almost get the athletes to say, "Hey, man, this is just a regular meet,"
Right.
because if you get so hyped up in your head, and we've been there, and I've coached a lot of athletes like that, and I've learned, because
Yeah.
we kind of hyped it up way too much.
Right. Right.
And they get out of that zone and they don't. I call it defending your mark. Like defend what you got in
Yeah.
here.
Prove
That's
it.
all you got to
Yeah.
do is just defend that, and you're going to be fine.
That's
And
awesome.
usually in that takes the pressure off, and they made PR,
Right.
or
Right.
do some
Yeah.
And then I always try to give them confidence, because I always usually have like all of the workouts that we've done from day one till now. And usually, like, I mean, it's many, many weeks. And I show them, and I show them this book. This is what you did. This is what you did to get here.
I
So
love that.
you're okay, just defend it. The reason why that you're here is because you did all this stuff. We're okay, man. If we had to do all this other stuff to get you back in and everything, then we have a problem, but we're fine, man. You're good.
Man, that's really good. I like that, man. See, I didn't even think of these questions, asking the non-tangible questions, but this is the kind of stuff that I'm looking for, man. Bring in the gold. All right. So when you're training, and we're talking about having purpose behind what you do in practice, there's four main parts of a jump. You got the run up, the takeoff, the flight, and the landing.
Yeah.
Besides those, or maybe just within those, what are kind of the training goals that you focus on throughout a season or throughout a practice, etc.?
So yeah. So, and hopefully I answer this right, but I could.
Sure you will.
This is how I say it. Like, what you want to do, and I always say this as a goal for all athletes, at some point of the season, you need to control your runway. It's a dance. It's a choreographed dance. It's yours. It's
control the runway. That's really
control the runway. Yeah,
okay.
That's and that would be kind of like your R factor, controlling what you can control. And don't worry what you can't control. You can't control the wind. You can't control like if somebody gets a monster jump at the first round. You can't control any of this stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing that you can control is this runway and everything. And a lot of times, like I've done some things, and I've learned this through swimming as well. And I can't remember Michael Phelps' swim coach, but I think he put like a hole in Michael Phelps' goggle in practice one time, so it would fill up with water. Okay. Yeah. So, a lot of athletes would freak out if that happens, but he went through the practice and it happened. Well, come to an Olympic Games, like that really did happen. Like water filled up his goggles. So a lot of athletes would just freak out because it's never happened to them.
Right. Yeah.
But it already happened in practice. He was okay and he won a gold medal. So what I do sometimes, and this is probably going away from like quote unquote being perfect with your runway. Sure. A lot of times I'll do chaos in practice. So I'll have them either move up a shoe or back a shoe.
Yeah.
And I tell them their responsibility is to get on the board and not foul.
Yes. Oh man.
No matter what, because this is your runway, you can control it.
Yeah.
And steering towards the runway, you can do that and everything like that. I just do that. So it's not maybe a monster jump, but I want them to feel like, man, I hit the board and I was a foot up, and I hit the board and I was a foot back. Man, like, this is awesome. Like, this is my runway, Yes. So those things I really like to do. You control it, and on day you haven't had anything new. Yeah, everything you've already experienced and everything like that. So I bring a chaos.
Okay, sorry, I got to interrupt you on that one, because that was perfect. And like, for any coach listening, and for athletes, and for myself, like, I think what you did there with your athletes, like I experienced today with my son Bo. So he was starting to climb up this ladder on a playground, and he turned around because it was a little higher than what he's used to, and he's like, "Daddy," and I was like, "No, you can do it." And then he was like, proceeded to do it, and he wouldn't do it. Like, I feel like that's exactly what you just did with them. You're like, it's your runway, like changing the mindset of being like afraid that like, oh no, like I don't have control over the runway, I might foul, like what if I'm in the wrong spot? But you giving them the confidence, I think that's so key.
And I think a thing about like what I would say, like, I guess, I'd like to be a leader and everything like that, but a leader is somebody that empowers somebody. That's what a leader does. So, if I'm a leader or whatever you want to say, it's because I'm empowering them. I want them to take ownership of that. And that is a leader. It doesn't have anything to do with like, I know all this stuff and everything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Nothing to do with that. I'm empowering you to do
Mm,
something. So honestly, like, and I've been trying to use this word a little bit differently. So, I'm trying to get away from like I coached people, I coached this person and this and
yeah,
that. What I want to say is I facilitated that person
yeah.
to do. That
That's really
means
good.
a lot more than coaching or all this
Right,
jargon and
right.
everything. If you were able to facilitate somebody to do something great, that's really cool.
Yeah. Man, that's amazing. Okay. So we can go back to training goals. So
Yeah.
we're just on approach. I mean, that is probably one of the biggest parts of
Yeah.
jumping in general, but
Yeah.
are there any other key training goals that you kind of tend to focus on?
So I like what I try to do is like every day is a long jump day or triple jump day in
Okay,
whatever we do. And what I mean by that is like,
got you.
so if we're doing accelerations like 30, 40s or whatever like that meters,
Yeah,
that's applicable to what we're doing on the runway.
right.
When we're doing like bounding, like if we're doing horizontal bounding or vertical bounding or whatever, that's applicable to what we're trying to do on like a Tuesday and Thursday for jumps days.
Sure.
Okay. So what I try to do is I'm a coach. From a full approach in practice, I never have them jump. There's only a few times that I've ever had like an athlete, and this is probably because they haven't had like too many meets or anything, but I just
Sure.
don't think you can get your adrenaline up at practice
Yeah.
to do a full approach and takeoff and landing. I
Right.
never ever do that. So we'll
Yeah.
do like pop ups or whatever you want to call it off the board from a full approach. But what
Right.
I try to do is whatever their approach is, whether it's like 20 strides and everything, we can expand that approach or we can shrink that approach. So you know usually about like 6 steps is a drive phase.
When you say steps or strides, are you talking about like 1, 2, 3, 4? Or are you saying 1, 2, 3?
So I mean it's either, so when I say 20 strides, that is like 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 to the board and everything, but I will
Sure.
count only their
The
takeoff
jump,
foot.
like, okay,
It
yep.
would be like
10
10,
step. Okay, sure.
yeah. But like, so the total amount of steps would be 20 steps,
Okay.
but I would only count like
Right.
the takeoff foot. But with that, I would go like say 20 steps, and then I would shrink that to short approaches where I'd go like 12, I'd go, 6, 8, 6, something like that.
Sure.
But we would do the same things, like drive out for a certain amount of the approach, but it wouldn't be like as drawn out as it would be like 6 strides and everything. Sometimes, like
Yep.
right now, we're at legitimately, when I say 6 strides, it's 6 strides to the board.
Yeah.
So you don't have enough time to like
To
drive
go
out
full.
as you would with a 20 stride approach.
Yep.
So I'd have to tell the athletes like, you're only driving out for 2 strides and then you're coming up and
Yep.
everything. So what we try to do is do the same mechanics with a 20 stride approach and get that narrowed into a 6 stride, and
Yep.
then 8, and then 10, and then 12, so that they can feel that. So
Yes.
what positions that they need to be in. And usually by 12 strides, that's where I kind of, they can feel it a lot better. Like
Mm.
we used to have like inter squad meets, and I mean it was awesome at OSU. I mean it was like a Big Ten championship all the
Oh man,
time.
I bet.
These guys were just going after it, man. I mean it was
Yes.
a really cool time because when I was at OSU, I had a 26-foot jumper,
Hmm.
25, and then two like mid 24 jumpers.
Dang.
And I mean, like now they do a thing on like TFers and everything, saying like which is the best
Like jump
squads
screw.
of.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, LSU's and like other people winning national championships, but like, I had all these guys like jumping out of the gym and everything like that. So I felt
Yeah.
very blessed. And for practice, man, they would go at it and they
Oh
would
man.
talk. I mean, it was like I mean, watching maybe a Bulls practice back in the day with Michael Jordan. I mean, it was so awesome. And for me, the intensity was up. I mean, it was so cool.
Right.
By 12 strides, usually they were trying to jump out of the gym at that point. So it was really cool. Now, a lot of times we sometimes measured, but like a lot of times, like sometimes we don't want to measure too much because then they're out of their technical. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, it was awesome. So what I try to do is just all those short approaches to get rhythms down and everything, and then feel from a full approach at meets.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So then as far as like takeoff and training the takeoff, because being able to translate that speed into flight is a very key factor.
Right. So what I try to do from like day one is we'll do a lot of skipping for height, skipping for distance type of things. Mm-hmm. And if you were to take a snapshot of them taking off from a skipping for height or distance, it is the exact same positions that you'll get off of the takeoff in the runway. So it might not be going 100 miles an hour, but they are getting rep after rep after rep, and they're not quote unquote long jumping, to get in that position. But we'll do a lot of that. And my staple, like my main thing that I do for takeoffs is a boost Schexnader thing is the run jumps, where what the way I coach it and everything, and he coaches it well. We try to get the penultimate foot and the takeoff foot to be kind of a heel toe flat-footed lead there, and then the penultimate knee drops, and then you get like the free leg to come up through when they're in flight phase and everything. So that is like the main thing that I'll do for takeoff mechanics, and we'll just do a lot of that. We'll do hurdle hops, or I should say hurdle takeoffs, where I usually have the hurdles spaced about like 3 meters apart, and they're low. They're kind of like the stick is like usually
type of thing.
Yeah, and then we'll put them down. I have used wickets and everything, but I'll just tilt the hurdle down and everything, so the stick is like right before they take off.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I'll go stick to stick from hurdle to hurdle, and that'll be 3 meters, or sometimes I've done 2.5 meters in between. Sure. And I'll do usually like I'll have 10 hurdles, and they'll just be all 3 meters apart. And then sometimes I'll take out some hurdles so it challenges them with rhythms and everything. So instead of like, having all the 10 hurdles, I'll take out some hurdles in the middle, and then they'll just have to figure out some stuff, because you also want to put like in there, if it's so kind of sanitary and everything like that, you can't learn. You have to make motor learning difficult, because once they start getting it, it's like you have to throw in other things, because they won't grow. They will not grow. So if you're doing it over and over and over again, you got to make it a little bit different, because you want them to feel comfortable, but not get to the point where it's like, so stereotypical, like, okay, this is what we're going to do this day. This is what we're going to change it up, man. That's just, I mean, that's how we do with our diets too. We can't have the same food every day, or we can, but it's not fun,
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great. That's perfect. Okay. Yeah. Sweet. So then let's move on into like the flight and phases. So you coach the triple jump as well, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the long jump, did you try to coach all your athletes to do one specific type of flight in the air, or did you kind of just like gauge it off of what they seem to naturally do?
I tried to gauge it. Some athletes, like I had one athlete that was he wanted to do kind of a like almost a double hitch kick. And it just went a little bit too fast, and sometimes he just wouldn't get in a good position for landing. And that's, again, the most important thing. So what I did was it got him away from double hitch kicking and just did a single hitch kick. And it just was slower in the air, and he could land correctly.
Yeah.
And that's where we needed to be. I generally, the main thing that I coach off of the board is that your free leg extends and falls. And from that position, you can do kind of whatever you want. There are arm movements that I like. Like I don't like athletes when they come off the board to kind of just do this. I kind of like a running type of action, because what you're doing is you're running on the runway, and say you're doing like usually like you're covering about 2.5 strides on the runway for each step and everything like that. Okay. Now, when you come off the board, you have to think like it can't be that fast. You're not going 2.5 strides.
Yeah.
You're doing like a 7-meter stride.
Wow.
And what a 7-meter stride is in your mind, it has to be slower. So,
this is so good.
I think there was this. I think this guy. It was Willie. It was Willie Banks. I can't believe I'm saying it. I think this is this guy. He's the record holder in triple jump.
Who's Willie Banks?
I listened to, yeah. I listened to him talk and everything, and he talked about. And he was a triple jumper, of course, not a long jumper.
Right.
Kind of same things and everything. But he would say when he came off the board, he talked about like cameramen taking pictures of him. Okay. And he said, when you move a lot on a camera, it gets fuzzy, and he said what he wanted to do when he came off the board is he wanted to be so slow off of the board that if people were taking pictures of him, like he could just wave and everything, and you wouldn't see blurry stuff and everything. So many kids, and especially for triple jump, they just want to rush everything off of the board and everything. Yep. And it's a timing thing that, again, you are going 2.5 meters per each stride. But when you take off, now you're going like a 4-meter stride. And what that 4-meter stride is it has to be longer and not short, and that's the same thing for long jump too.
Yep. So the last 15 minutes or however long we've been talking, like I just want to I'm going to record it. I'm just going to play this every year on the first day to all my athletes. They'll understand long and triple jump. I won't even have to coach them the rest of the year. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So continuing, so you said you kind of basically just teach them that first drop leg and recover. And then after that, it kind of just happens.
Yep. And usually like gravity will take you down. Like Boo Schexnayder talks a lot about like he'll teach the landing, of course, but a lot of times landing, I mean, gravity will take care of it. Gravity is going to put you back down to the earth, and there's specific things like we don't want you to land like on your feet or anything like that.
Yep.
But, a lot of times if you do things correct, like I've heard this too, you cannot have a perfect landing if you don't have a perfect takeoff.
Ooh,
and so many kids want to have this great landing. They say, "Coach, I didn't land right," and everything. Well, you didn't have a great takeoff. So why are we talking about your landing? Each and every, it's a cause and effect thing. So, you can't look at a painting through a microscope. You have to see your whole eyes in there and everything.
Yeah.
So a lot of kids, they get so much confirmational bias through what they think and everything like that in their bodies, but they're looking at one specific part. But you've got to look at the whole thing, not just one thing. So a lot of times what I see with not good landings is you're too over-rotated at takeoff.
Right.
And this is the reason why you're landing bad. It's not the landing is bad, it's your takeoff that's bad. So we got to correct that, and then your landing will get better.
It's interesting that you pointed that out, kind of like that domino effect of like, the takeoff affects the landing, and even more obviously in triple jump, the first phase affects second phase, affects third phase. But like the last couple of years that I've been coaching high schoolers, I feel like I've spent like 90% of my time working on the first phase and like the transition into the second phase. And I'm like, guys, we'll work on the third phase someday, I promise. But you can't have a third phase without a first. So
And that's definitely true, and it has to, like, again, you got to think in your mind, and I try, like, sometimes when I, like we were talking about earlier, in my career, I wanted to be so much of a specialist that I got to think, like, generally, So if I'm thinking about this takeoff and everything, we got to think about, or excuse me, the landing, we got to think about the takeoff and the rhythm that you do off of the triple jump. I mean, that's kind of like power ballet, man. I mean, it's really cool when it's done right, and when it's not done right, it's pretty
It's
bad.
obvious, yeah.
But a lot of things that happen in your second phase, everybody, oh, my second phase is bad or something like that. Well, it's bad because of your takeoff. You're not not feeling like you're trying to take off like a long jumper, and you have this huge arc of like a parabolic curve coming off your hips, and you're just slamming on the track afterwards. If you think about running through the board, and one cue that I say for a lot of my athletes coming off the board in triple jump is just feel like your foot is glued onto the board when you're about to take off, because that will let you do everything. A lot of athletes want to come off the board way too fast, and to feel like your foot is glued on that board, that's going to put your hips in the correct position, and it's almost like it's fight or flight. Like, you're going to do it because that's what your body does. A lot of times we just try to do things that our body doesn't want to do. But if you do those certain things and glue your foot on the board, hips are passed, and you're ready to triple jump, and you're going to have a great second phase if you glue your foot on the board.
Man, that's spot on. Sweet. All right. Well, now that we've established that landing is the least important part of the jump, how do you go about teaching the landing, and what are some of your cues?
So for landing, I do a three-phase landing technique. So first off, I'll have the athletes stand at the edge of the pit, okay, with toes off of the track. Because because what I really like to see is a complete extension with the whole body, and when your foot is directly on the track, you don't really get that ankle to really do what it should do.
That's interesting. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've never thought of that. Okay.
So when you have the toes off of the track, you get that full extension. So you're getting that, what they call triple extension going. So that's the only time that you can do it. So I get them in that position, and then we'll do the first phase is kind of a gymnastic landing. So they will land on their feet, with their arms out in front of them. So I say, go for that 10. When you stick it for 1/1000, because if they can't stick that position and they're going 0 miles an hour, they're going to over rotate. So a lot of over rotation is because they don't put their bodies in correct positions. So we train that so they're not getting over rotated. So that would be, I'd have them do it a couple times so they could feel that. Then the next thing that I do is that I'll have them do that gymnastics landing, and then I'm going to have them squat down so their butt is getting close to their ankles. Okay. Do that a couple times so they feel that. And then we'll do the gymnastic landing, squat, and then they'll kick their feet out. They will go backwards a little bit, and they'll be like, "Coach, but I'm going backwards." But you're not traveling like at my guys, they were going 10 meters.
10, 11,
they could kick out and everything like that. So they'll do that a couple times. And for all of those, they have a distinct pause. So gymnastics landing, squat, kick out. So the next thing I'll do is just have them take out that pause. So they just go gymnastics landing, squat, kick out. So there's no pause in there. So they get that kind of feeling. And when they start doing that and they feel comfortable with that, then they can really standing long jump. And I just tell the athletes, like, a great long or a great landing is when you feel like the sand is exploding, everything. So those are cues that I do for that, and then we'll do variations. So there's a lot of horizontal like little bounds that we do. So I'll have them do like alternate bounds. Like we'll move back maybe to the triple jump board and do like a right left right left. But when they go into the pit, they're landing. They're doing that landing. So a lot of what I do at this age, like high schools, I'll have them do a lot of landing. Now the interesting thing is I don't like my pros or people that are higher on the genetic to do a lot of landings because they've been doing it for so long that we got to keep their backs, they're going to be, this is their career and everything like that. So I might have them bail out on the landing. And like you're saying, like the landings aren't that most important and everything. They are important, but a lot of times that is the one thing that I'll kind of skip out, especially like in triple jump. A lot of times, like, when we do short stuff, I may have them, land a little bit, but at the higher end, they might not land so much. If we get the first phase and the second phase good, landings will come.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you're getting more bang for your buck working on those pieces. You're not going to add an extra foot if you're working on your landing.
Exactly. And I mean, landings at an older age are going to hurt a lot more on the body.
That's interesting. I never thought about that.
Because like
it makes sense,
with these athletes that we have like at the emerging level or high school level, I mean, their engines aren't like. So Mike and Zach that I had, and a lot of my athletes, Corbin and everything, they had great engines. So it would be like putting a funny car on a freeway. You can't do that. It would burn up. A funny car is only supposed to do this. It's supposed to do like 4 seconds in the, or whatever. I you know what I'm saying. But with those massive engines, they can't go to Florida. The engine would die. So, with a lot of these athletes, their max velocity might be like maybe 8 meters per second, which is relatively low. So not saying that like I want to jump them every day, but like you could probably get away with that at like a 7 meter or an 8 meter. You can't do that with a 10 meter per second guy.
So I mean,
I heard some things from now of course, Ben Johnson, he was fast, whether, he had some stuff in him and everything like that. But for a lot of his sprints that he did for practice, he might have to take a half hour break. And we're talking 60 meters.
Right.
Because he's like almost 10, 11, 12 meters per second. Your body you have to recover from that, and it's not like he's huffing and puffing and everything like that. It's your nervous system. Your nervous system is so shot at that point. I mean, it's like, you're getting so much electricity going through your body that you need to recover, and that's how like the top athletes, like a lot of times, so some people will go out to see a pro practice and sometimes it's boring because they have to. They think it's like, oh my gosh, that, and it's like, well, some do, but like a lot at the higher end, they need a lot of rest, because their engine is so high that they can't do what a high schooler could do. If I sometimes did what I've done in high school to a lot of the pros, and they would kill me. They would go to somebody else, and rightfully they should, because they dictate their intensity. Because they're so fast.
Wow. It makes a lot of sense. That's crazy. It's a different world. I don't work in that world, so but
I've seen
totally
it.
Makes
I mean,
sense.
but the great thing is I've just had diversity and so much stuff that I can see a high school athlete, I can see a D3 athlete, D2, D1, and find all the commonalities in that. I mean, we're all built pretty much the same. We just have different engines, and you have to know where you are on that spectrum of talent to coach at.
Right.
And coach at that point.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So kind of going back to the point of the repetition, basically kind of simplifying everything, not even doing the full jump in practice, but doing the movements that are going to resemble the final, jump or performance, uh, and just kind of repping them out. How long would you say on average it takes like a new high school kid that hasn't really been doing it or did it in middle school to start to get proficient? And I understand there's some kids who just pick things up quicker, but like
Right.
average kid who, yeah.
I think like a motor screening of kids, like honestly, like sometimes you have to teach a kid to go opposite arm, opposite leg. Like sometimes that is the
Oh
biggest
no.
that's the biggest thing that you get out of the day. If they can get
Yeah.
opposite arm, opposite leg, you've accomplished something for that day.
Wow.
But like sometimes it's that way. Their motor systems like and I don't want to say it has anything to do with like how physical education is run
Mm.
now, but
Oh,
like
interesting.
I think we lose a lot of like we don't skip that much in gym class and everything
Right.
like that. We don't learn like I remember I was just talking to my wife like we had to climb a rope in gym class. I know it sounds great. We had to do tumbling, we did gymnastics, we did all of these sports and
Mm.
everything like that where
Yeah.
we got diversity of movement
Yeah.
where some of these kids are just so specialized. We have so many like we have kids leaving practice to go to like volleyball or this or that, and
Right.
it's just like we're getting so specialized that these kids, it's really hard to teach them athletics. They call track and field athletics
Right.
overseas because it encompasses everything that you do in athletics.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, running, throwing, jumping, all of this stuff. But we're just kind of, in a point where we're trying to get the best out of every one of those things.
Right.
But to get back to your question, like it's almost like a fingerprint. You just don't really know. You put them
Sure.
through a lot of these things like skipping, run, jump, taking off from hurdles and things like that. And also what you try to do is you try to train them in a point where you're trying to encourage a lot of tissue response. So I will
Interesting.
do things forward, I will do things sideways, I will do things backwards. A lot of
Gotcha.
times we get so kind of like a stereotypical bias going forward because that's all we do,
Right.
that you have an athlete do something backwards and it's just like they crumble.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
like because in their minds they can cheat a little bit going forward,
Right.
that a lot of these muscles going backwards they just don't know what's going on. And I don't want to say they're not turned on because that's
I.
another,
Yeah.
oh god, I don't even want to get into that right now. I know I get say, well, and that's other things too, and this is my little soapbox that words matter.
Mm.
Like I have so many athletes that say like their glutes aren't turned on or this isn't turned on, and I'm just like, if they weren't turned on, you would be paralyzed right now.
Yeah. You'd be
And
falling
all
down.
of these fancy terms are just
Yeah.
like terms like, okay, you need to get stronger. You need to link up your ankle to your knee to your hip. That's
Mm.
what you need to do. You don't
Interesting.
need to turn on your glutes again. Like again, your body does not work in isolation. It works in a symphony of movements. It
Yeah.
doesn't work in one movement. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of times we get so much into corrective exercises that we're not applying it to the actual event.
Yeah.
That is the corrective exercise. If
Right.
you get things right, that's correcting it. So,
I mean,
so again, like I just don't think we should use all these terms. But
right.
for athletes, like I just try to put them in so much diverse movement
Mm.
that they can look better in what they do. So
Sure.
I'm probably trying to be the gym teacher that they never had.
Yeah. That's interesting. Wouldn't that be funny if every gym teacher had to be certified in like sprint mechanics?
Yeah. Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely. And sometimes like I look at kids and I'm just like, I just don't think they ever got outside and played.
Man, Seriously
like
though.
climbed a tree or did any of this stuff. Like I just
Right.
don't think they did because they look so like I shouldn't use the word uncoordinated, but it's just they haven't had
They look
those
so green.
experiences.
Like,
Yeah, and Lord knows I'm not saying I was the best when I came out in high school and everything, but I think in the 90s and everything like that, like 80s when I was growing up and everything, we had so much stuff that like teaching of movements
right.
that I just don't think they do that a lot. Again, I've had same arm, same leg in college
Oh
in
man.
college, man. So it's just like I'm not blaming the coaches and everything, but
Yeah.
sometimes that's the first experience they might have had with
Wow.
skipping for height or skipping for distance. They never done it.
What do you think like is causing that? You think it's like just kids like basically not being outside much, or is it the actual like
I
education system? What like
I think it's a lot. I mean, that could be a lot. I could
yeah.
probably be very controversial in so many things. But like, I mean, I just think like I'm older right now, so I'm 45, almost 46. So me going back to high school, it is like a shock because like
Yeah.
coached in high school the last time I was like 20, 25. So I was like cool, like I could understand some of this music that they had, when I was 25. I mean, when 18 and 25 were kind of in the same bracket. Now I'm
Right, right.
45 and these kids are like 17, 18. I'm like, we just don't like, we're not there right now. So
Yeah.
but I think the thing that needs to be done is like I'm old school and I don't even know if they have a school. So let's just like blend what we can do together and try to make music, man, make a symphony out of this.
Yeah.
Uh, I just think a lot of times it just comes down to a lot of kids. Like I remember when I was a kid, ask my parents, like, can I stay out a little bit longer, outside,
Right,
can I do
right,
a little more basketball? Can I do this and that? And
right.
now it's like, I mean, I try not to be judgmental, but it's like, Mom, Dad, can I stay on the computer for a little bit longer? Or can I play with my Xbox a little bit longer?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I mean, I was a Nintendo kid, but like, I mean, I
Right.
think it's totally
Balance.
changed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just totally changed. So I don't know where it begins, but I'm thankful that I'm able to work with these kids to show them a little
Hmm.
bit of
Right.
how to move their bodies
Yes.
before if they never had it.
Right.
At
Right.
least they're getting it maybe later, but at least they're
Right.
getting it.
It's funny you say I've been tempted to like play basketball at practice or like play dodgeball or frisbee or something to like get them moving side to side. Like,
No, seriously. Like I sometimes at Otterbein are now they weren't that bad back then, but like
sure.
a lot of times we would just do like a game of knockout to warm up. And it
What's
was fun.
knockout?
It's basically where you have like two basketballs and like a person makes a shot, and if the person makes the shot, the next person has to make a shot
Oh, right, right.
kind of
Lightning.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'd play that game, and they would be almost more sweaty in that
Right.
than my actual warm up. So I was just like, well, let's play knockout. Let's everything like that. So
Right.
so that kind of stuff really helps. So in high school, sometimes we would play crab. What was it called? Crab soccer, where it would be like down on the ground and everything, and
Oh,
you'd be
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, you're tightening your core, you're working your legs and everything. You're
Yeah.
playing a game, and they were
And you don't
sweatier
even
than
realize it.
yeah. So, and it was fun for them. And I'm just like, you're warming up, you're working your core, you're working your arms.
Yeah.
We're covering a lot of boxes here when we're doing that, and it's
Right,
fun.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And super weird, like you're saying that like that you even have to do that with kids now. But
Right. Right.
yeah.
Right. Oh.
All right. All right. Let's take a break from the serious track stuff here, serious track business, and ask a few fun questions here. So it's track related, obviously, but if you could pick any professional athlete, non-track athlete, and coach them how to long or triple jump, who would you pick and why? And it could be a past athlete or present,
Oh man.
like LeBron James, Michael Jordan,
I think
Derek
LeBron would
Jeter.
Honestly, LeBron would be a great discus thrower. That's where I'd like to put him. I don't. I mean, just the long
So
arms.
massive. Yeah.
I mean, he would be a world record holder if he was in another like country and everything like that.
Yeah.
I would probably say like probably somebody, and this would be a former person. I'd probably say Deion Sanders in
Ooh.
long jump. I
Mm-hmm.
think. Okay, he would be kind of like we would have to deal with his ego back then. So he would have been like a Carl Lewis, but Carl got some stuff done, So whatever, it was all
Yeah.
good. But probably like Deion Sanders, I would
Okay.
think long jump. But like I'm trying to think like who would it's kind of difficult to think like well, who would be triple jumping, man. That's
Right.
it's like a different beast, man.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean it's. Oh man, that might have to be another. I might have to think about that one. I couldn't. I know Dion probably could not triple jump at all to save. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes with long jump, you can just get lucky if they're fast, and if they're fast, you could trip off the board and go 26 feet.
Right. Right.
It happens sometimes. But triple jumping, man, I might have to think about that. That triple jumping is like for me that's one that you really have to coach. Not to say like long jump, you
Right.
don't
Right.
coach, but triple jump you really have to know how to manage that
Mm,
and injury prevention and just all of that
totally.
stuff. Yeah,
Totally.
you gotta be careful with all that stuff because I mean you're sprinting down there like 10 meters per second, you're landing, and then jump. It's
Yeah.
brutal. So yeah, that event I love it. I love it, but it can ding you up big time.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. We'll do a little bit of overrated, underrated, but
Okay.
in track and field, is the slow clap overrated or underrated?
Oh man, the clap. So I love the clap when it's like when it should be done, but
Okay.
like when you get guys to like if you're in the first flight and the second flight is going to be the monster jumps and you're starting to clap, I'm like, oh my god, what are we doing here, guys? Um, and honestly, like the clap is great, and I do like I think I think it's overrated. I think it's fun to get I like the crowd getting involved because there does need to be a lot more crowd noise
Right.
because at some track meets, I mean, it's like you could hear a pin drop and
Oh
everything
man.
like that.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate it from that point of view,
Mm-hmm.
but like when I was growing up, and this is just me old school, like Carl Lewis never called for a clap. Mike
Oh,
Powell never called
interesting.
for a clap. Like they clapped, but he never called for it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they knew what was coming on. Like for some
Wow.
stuff, it's just like they knew that they were great. So
Yeah.
you're going to be entertained. So just be entertained with what I'm doing.
Right.
I know that probably, and I'm not saying that the clap is bad for any of the athletes that
Sure.
do it.
Sure. Yep.
I always look at that and I was like, they didn't ask for it. They
That
got it. They didn't
right.
ask for it.
That's interesting. I never even like noticed that. Like now that you say it,
Yeah.
I don't think I can recall them ever throwing the clap up, but that's
They were just they were workers.
yeah,
They just on the runway and they
do
showed
business.
you what they did in practice, and
Yeah.
what they did in practice was fantastic, and it just bled in. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was that stuff. Like they never asked for it, so I would
Yeah.
probably say clap is overrated, but I do like it to see the crowd getting involved.
Yeah. Along the lines of long jump and the older guys, Carl Lewis, Mike Powell, etc. Do you have an idea of why the distances in long jump have dropped so substantially? He smiles. Or like, is it just those guys are freaks, or like what's going on there?
Okay. I'll be very politically correct here. I'll probably say there's more money in sprinting. So if
Mm,
any of those jumpers had speed and
mm,
they could be running against a Usain Bolt and finish
right.
eighth, they get
Yeah.
a heck of a lot more money than a long jump. Um, 80s, 90s, like, I mean, I don't know. I love all those guys.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
I love all those guys. I also think probably money is a little bit like I said, LeBron James could do discus and he would be fantastic at it, but he's making millions
in basketball.
Yeah. So I think a lot of football players like Marquise Goodwin, the football player. I mean, he went to the Olympic Games, and I think he's still training right now. I think he's trying to do 21. Sweet. But I mean, there is a lot of NFL guys that could be jumpers, but they are making that heck of a lot of money. Where in jumps, I mean, it can be really fickle with getting paid, which is terrible. So I think that in itself needs to change, but we've been trying to change that for years. So I don't know the solution, but there's probably smarter people out there that know really what it should be. And it really needs to be done, because it's just terrible when you have like athletes that are world class that are trying to get into a high school to practice. That just makes it, it's crazy. Even at the great levels, you might have a coach that can't be at your meet because you're in Europe, and it's just like what other sport does that? It's just crazy. Like I don't know. So yeah. I think to be politically correct, I think money has a lot to do with. But that Juan kid from Cuba, I mean. Yeah, jeez, man. When I saw that one meet where he almost jumped out of the pit, and I was lucky to like that. I just got up. It was in the morning, and I turned on, and I'm looking at my wife, and I was like, "That's the longest jump I've seen like in ever, like 10 years or something like that." And I was like, "I think he just broke the world record."
It was so reminiscent of those jumpers too. It was just like, whoa.
Yeah, and he's so young, and I'm like, I just looked at Stacy. I was like, he just broke the world record. This is amazing. And I mean, he was like 28:10 or so. I can't remember, but that's pretty far, man. That's out there, man. That is so out there. Yeah.
It'll be exciting to watch him over the next few years.
Yeah.
So your response actually basically answers my next overrated, underrated, which is track and field as a whole. Overrated or underrated? Or properly rated?
I don't really even know how to answer this, so I'll just say it really. I love track and field, and I think that it still has a long way to go. I think it's I like what they're doing with a lot of the meets, trying to make them, interesting to the layperson.
Right. That's the key.
I mean, honestly, like sometimes, and I hate to say this, is just it takes a long time for a meet. I mean, track coaches, and if like in college, if you're waiting like 8 hours for something to be done, or if you go to the regional meet, for D1, and it's like, you have 12 competitors jumping, but there's no real winners and everything like that. The fans are like, what's going on here? Like, we get it because it's like a tournament and everything like that, but it's not like we're watching March Madness and somebody gets a score and then just stops playing, and it's just like, well, what the heck is going on? That's it's weird how we do things comparatively to other sports. So I'm not smart enough to make judgments on it, but those are the things that I would always hear outside that makes it not fan friendly.
Right. That's fair. I feel like they have to, or they should do like exhibition type things, like where they just do like one event or two events, almost like they do in Europe, like the street jumps or
then they love that stuff. Yeah. And that's very popular and everything. And they've done some like street meets with long jump and everything like that. The one thing I caution with that is just don't make it a carnival. You know what I'm saying? Like it has to be a mystique about it, and I want fans to be there, but like let's just not make us carnival people where we're just kind of doing something crazy.
Off. Yeah.
But
I get you.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved track and field for, all these years since I remember 84 is when I first saw like Carl Lewis do something, and I was a kid. I didn't know what was going on. I knew he was running fast, but
Right.
it's like we're the darlings of the Olympics every 4 years,
Right.
but like people don't understand. Like, yeah, it's not every 4 years that these people compete every year,
Right. Right.
and that's something that the layperson really doesn't understand. So
Yeah.
I think track and field is very underrated
Mhm.
with a lot of people not knowing really what we do.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just think every 4 years there's an Olympic Games and somebody
Right.
tries out or something. Like I hear all that stuff. It's like, no, we don't try out. We like you have
Yeah.
to get three, and even if you're in the top three, you got to make a standard to go to the
Man.
game.
Right.
So the Olympic trials isn't like guaranteed that you're going. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That I think that was the most crazy thing that I like learned. I think college was probably the first time I really realized it, that like if you were an Olympian in the past, it doesn't mean that you're going to be an Olympian the next year.
right,
Like it
right,
just
right,
blew my mind. But
yeah,
one random thing that's I heard somebody say one time to make the Olympics, which are already hyped up, but like even better for the people watching who aren't track people, is like they should just take a random Joe from the crowd and have them run in the 100-meter race or in all the races, just to
yeah.
show people like how insane these
It is.
athletes are.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like
At the highest level, man. Yeah.
I would love to see like someone doing the long jump and like barely making the pit, and then like I mean nobody, I guarantee a regular Joe wouldn't make the pit in the triple jump
Right.
from a 13-meter
Oh
board.
no.
Yeah.
No. 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 They would take like a quadruple or like
Yeah.
trying to. They probably still wouldn't hit the sand with foreground contacts.
Right, right. Good weather versus bad weather.
um, I would say weather can be overrated because like I remember we were at the Olympic trials in 12, and you get all these Texas guys and Florida guys in like 50-degree weather. And I go to Mike and I'm just like, see, they're shivering out there, man,
Right,
and it's
right.
in their minds and everything. Like we deal with this stuff all the time,
Yeah.
so go out there and do what we do back home.
Yep.
They're not going to be used to it. They're going to be complaining and they're going to be defending what they're just not. They're just not going to be in the good mind frame. So
Right.
weather, I don't like to stand out in bad weather, but
Right.
very overrated to an athlete.
Sure.
Just build chaos in practice and
Get them used to it.
know that you've been doing everything to be in this position that you're at right now in any
Sure.
kind of meet.
Right. That's good. Do you use any kind of like technology in your coaching, like video or analysis, things like that? And
Right, right.
yeah.
And I probably should get some money from the, no, I use Coach's Eye.
Right.
That's pretty much the one video thing that I do.
Okay.
Now I sometimes put out. I don't have like any laser timing gates and everything. I really want to invest in those free lap things as
Yeah.
well. Those can tell like sweet spots in your velocity on the
Oh,
last like
interesting.
years and everything like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And those are very important to see how far you're going to jump.
Yeah.
So I'm very velocity based in my training. So I
Okay.
would like those to be very specific.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically I'll put like a thing down on the runway. So I'll go a meter away from the board and like we'll get a 10-meter segment. So I'll time that. And sometimes I'll time that on the coach's eye.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll do that with a stopwatch
Okay.
just to see like what we train to be is 10 meters per second. So I'm
Okay.
looking at in that little gate, I want like 1 second through there.
Okay.
If it's 0.9, that's really good. That means we're going faster than 10 meters
Oh,
per
wow.
second.
Okay. Right.
that's what I kind of coach at, as especially at the Division I level.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Yeah.
It's it'll be a little bit less than that at high school or D3 or something like that. But
At high school, would it be like 9 or 8? Or I mean, sure, it ranges obviously depending on the kid, but
so when I look at maximum velocities, okay, and this goes globally. So
okay.
even Carl Lewis and all of these guys. So whatever they were going in their like 10 meters before the board and everything with their speed. So say they were going like 11 meters per second, and yeah, they could go 11 meters per second, and that's really, really fast.
Yeah.
Usually with takeoff, because you're trying to get a little bit of vertical on that,
Yep.
you have to do a little bit of a trade-off.
Okay. Right.
So whatever that is, you usually subtract a meter per second. So say they're going
okay.
11 meters per second. When they come off the board, they're going at 10 meters per second.
Yeah.
So that is why it's crucial to really do velocity training in practice, because you're going to lose a meter per second when you come off the board. So say if somebody's going at 8 meters per second, well, when you take off, it's going to be 7 meters per second, which is slow. So faster that you can possibly be through that, and it has to be controlled speed. But great jumpers are fast at all levels and everything. So not every fast person can be a good jumper, but every great jumper is fast. So that's what you really have to do in training. So those are things that I throw in there. But generally, like, I try to do most of my stuff with my eyes. I think a lot of times this is another problem that I'm seeing in high school athletes, is they're always rushing to see video of themselves. So they don't even know what they're feeling.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I mean, we had these huge, cameras and everything like that we couldn't see ourselves until we got home. So we had to feel all the things that the coaches were saying and take that in and use our minds to understand. Now everything is so uber specialized that you want to throw a video right at a kid, and they're not feeling anything anymore. They're just seeing things. So a lot of that technology is useful, but it can also get in the way. Like if a coach always has to look at video, they can't like use their eyes in real time. That's bad. Some days I don't have video at all because I want to see. This is the best technology that you can possibly get, and let's use that. Other things can aid it, but it's a crutch. It's a crutch if that's all you have.
Yeah, for sure. Do you ever not use video in the meet, but take video and like analyze it later, like kind of go through and watch things slow-mo or anything? Or
I do. Initially, what I'll try to do is sometimes what I usually do is watch it real time. Like that's where you can kind of pick up things. You can do some things slow-mo, but sometimes in slow-mo, the rhythm, you can't see the rhythm of that and everything. And I hate when some coaches will just film things in slow-mo, and sometimes slow-mo looks perfect, but the rhythm isn't there. So I always tell them, like, film it regularly, and if I need to slow-mo it, I can do that. But if you just send it to me slow-mo, I can never see what it really looked like. So just try to use the naked eye with so much stuff. You can slow-mo stuff and get in positions, but if you look at what the position they're in and say it's a faulty position, you always have to look back a couple frames and see what they did to get to that position, and not just coach at that point. So with that technology, sometimes, again, that can be a crutch because you're only looking at like the effect and not the cause. So it's always critical, like, to look, like, everything is kind of snowballed up to the board, and we're just looking at the board, like, and this isn't a technology thing, but when I look at my jumpers, I'm never looking at the board, ever. There's no meet that I'm ever at the board. And all these coaches, like, all they do is huddle towards the board. And I'm just like, again, with the analogy, you cannot look at a picture through a microscope. They're just looking at the microscope right there.
Right.
Whenever you see me at a meet, I'm usually watching, and we can talk about this, but I'm always at the last 4 strides mark, and it's usually about, like, for my guys in college, it was about 30 feet away from the board. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to see that position where they are, like four strides to the board.
Yeah.
The ref is going to tell me if he fouled or not, but he's not going to tell me where he is 4 strides out. I need to be, and I'm way back, so I'm seeing the whole thing and not just at this one, board thing and everything like that. So with that, and I don't know where I was going with that, but like that's kind of where I try to draw back a little bit and see everything opposed to just looking at one specific thing.
Right. No, that's really good. Okay, so then to tag along onto that, when you're at a meet and it comes to, like, you see a few things wrong with a jump, do you try to give them 1 or 2 or 3, or do you try to correct everything? What's your approach for giving feedback after a jump?
I try to hit the most cancerous thing, or the low like level fruit off of a tree. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to hit the thing that will, again, try to correct a lot of patterns with one thing. Cause and effect type of thing that happens. So a lot of times, like in an approach, if they're not doing good things off of the board, I'm going to try to correct the things that are going on in the first couple strides. Like maybe they're going too fast, or maybe, a lot of times it's the rhythm of the approach. They'll be spinning out of the back, what we call, and their bodies aren't moving down the track. Their legs are moving really fast. It's like a car stuck in mud. You're just so quick and everything that when you come to the board, it looks so long and everything, and they're reaching and doing all that stuff because they didn't distribute the runway correctly. What they're doing is reversing the runway. They're trying to go really fast here, get so long here, and with stride length and stride frequency, you have to have it the other way. You have to have stride length at the beginning and stride frequency at the end. And a lot of athletes don't understand that. They want to come out of hell out of the back, and that's stride frequency, and then they start to get stride length at the end, trying to be really reachy and everything like that. And you have to build momentum. So that's just like one thing that I see a lot. Another thing is posture. A lot of times what athletes will do is tilt their hips forward and almost get into like what we would call a tripping action and everything. And when you start to trip, you start to get a little bit long. And if your hips aren't doing that well and they're not stable, that's why you're fouling like by an inch every time. It's not that you got to move back or do all this stuff. Correct your hips and everything and move through the board, and let's be calm through it and not so tight off the boards that you're fouling every time. That's why you're fouling. It's not because you have to move back. It's like you're not doing in the middle of the approach to do that. So I'll try to change those little things. I won't try to change everything, because an athlete really will only listen to maybe 1 or 2 things that you say. They're so amped for that day that they don't just try. What I try to do is the approach of bumper bowling, bumper bowling, like so the gutters are filled with bumper. So you're just trying to get them closer to the pins, close to the pins. So not trying to do crazy stuff or reinventing the wheel or anything like that. Just bumper bowling to get to the pins.
And like you were saying earlier in the conversation, just like you should be teaching them, or you were teaching them how to kind of like judge or adjust their runway to make sure they're on the board no matter what's going on anyway. So
right we try to address
slowing down.
Yeah. We try to address a lot of things in practice, but then there'll be some times that you got to do a monstrous amount of coaching.
Interesting.
It's funny. Like I've heard some people say like if you're in a championship and you have three jumps and then three jumps in the finals and everything like that, they say the first jump is for your coach. Jump for your coach. Get a legal jump.
Right.
And then the next jump is all you. But get that legal jump first so that your coach doesn't have to lose hair, tear, get that code, get that one first for your coach, and then just go for your monster jump for you on your next jump.
Yeah.
And that helps coaches out tremendously.
That's it.
If we have to coach you and we're trying to get you in the final and we have a foul and a foul, yeah, coaches, man, we're about to die out there, And I've been in those situations too, and it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Get this guy on. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much weighing on your shoulder. Like, okay, wait, do I change anything, or are they gonna too many variables?
Trials, foul. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. And basically what I told him is like, I think all he had to jump, and I don't want to say all he had to jump was. He had to jump 25.2 to get into the final.
Okay.
And I said to him, Mike, you've gone 25.2 from a 12 stride approach. This is easy. This is so you can do this in your sleep. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
And he came out and I think he jumped 25.6.
Okay. Perfect.
So it was just one of those things where it was just like, just keep on, like you said, just keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to jump 27 feet. Just get into the final. And stop fouling.
Yeah.
I think he was trying to press too much and do all this stuff where all you had to do was make the final, jump 25.2, and you're in the Olympic trials final, and you're the top 8 people.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It worked.
Man. So what percentage of coaching is physically getting the athlete ready and mentally getting the athlete ready?
It's a combination. Sometimes you have to be just so like you almost have to get away from like talking to them about track. Talk to them about get them distracted on things. When I was working a swim meet with Olympians, and it was a national meet. Okay. And all of these people, they were from like Georgia, SEC schools and everything like that. Olympic gold medalists, mind you. Okay.
Yeah.
They're at a swim meet and a national swim meet to get ready in their competition and everything. All these guys are lined up and watching Georgia versus Alabama football SEC championship.
Yeah.
And they call it a positive distraction.
Yeah.
It's
legit.
All of these kids that are in college right now, and there were collegiate. This was a collegiate meet as well. I mean, they're doing all their drills and they're doing everything. The Olympians are watching the SEC championship in football.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that's what they needed. It's not like warming up, but it's like you almost have to do things a little differently. You can't just be like so focused and everything because that will kill you in the end.
I'll try to wrap it up here.
Gotcha.
Because I know you have a baby and life is crazy when you have babies. Wow. How is it different from high schoolers to Division I college? There's more pressure, outside pressure, I would say, from the university, from parents, friends, family, whatever. But going back to coaching high schoolers now, like
I could say it like this. This is I'll try to say what I feel and everything. And this is, and I don't want anybody to take this wrong, what I'm saying, but like when I coached an athlete, her name was Mandy Fugate at Otterbein, and we were the last qualifier for the national championship in Division III.
Wow.
And I think it was on Raceberry Jam back in the day. If you remember that, it was like, it wasn't Teepers back in the day. It was that. And we were the last to get in, man. I just I felt on top of the world, man. Yes. Like that was just like an accomplishment that it was so cool. And I relished it and everything. Right. And it wasn't like expected. It was just one of those things that was just unbelievable. And to this day, I mean, I love that. I love that time. When I came to Division I OSU, it was like expected that we win a Big Ten championship in long jump. It was
Yeah.
expected that we go to USA's Olympic trials and everything. And
Right.
that's what I wanted too.
Right. Right.
I wanted all these athletes to do that, but there was a stressful level that all of these things were expected of you, and that's why like I probably have become more of an intensive coach since that time. Good or bad. I don't know.
Intensive in what way?
Like making people like my practices from OSU has become a lot more intense. Like not to say like I give them levels of expectations that they need at any level and everything. So
Yeah.
it was like, for Big Ten championships, if you want to go first, you're going to have to jump over 8 meters or something like that.
Yeah.
These are the expectations. We got to do this every day. And that's kind of the intensity. If you want to get fourth place, you're probably going to have to jump 25 mid or something like
Yeah.
that. We got to do this now. The lights are on you. You are being evaluated, all of this stuff. So that's what I'm saying by like being more intense. Like what I'm doing right now, that's pretty intense. I don't know, like if I had you as an athlete at Wisconsin, like if that might have come off too hard on you and everything. I don't know. I don't know, but this level, it was like expectations, follow it, go.
Right.
Where when I was at Otterbein, I don't want to say it was kind of laissez-faire. I don't want to say that at all, but it was a little bit more, I want to say maybe a little bit more laid back. And maybe that's kind of where I need to go with my coaching. I don't know.
Sure.
But ever since I did leave OSU, it has gotten a lot more intense with how I do that. But with that, the athletes understand that this is important to me. I'm well organized, and that's the main thing. If anything, they can see like I'm organized to know all of this other stuff, that I'm not bumbling into this and trying to be friends with you and everything. That's not my and everything. So that's probably it made me grow up going to Division I. But I've become a lot more of an intense coach since that point.
Right. Interesting. So would you say you're intense with the high schoolers as well?
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like day one, they did like, what's going on, man? It's like, oh my God.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's not just like, okay, we're going to do this. Yeah. It was like, okay, these are the things that we're going to do today. And all that stuff. So I don't want to be like, I'm saying like I'm a drill sergeant and everything that. I want people to be accountable for what they're doing. And at this level, I think a lot of people sometimes just want to come out for just being friends with somebody, because like my friends, that didn't happen at OSU. I mean, they were friends, but they were there to accomplish something for the of the team. And what I see as a coach right now is like, we're responsible for this jump squad. We have to score some points for conference, regions, all districts, region, all of this stuff, and make this jump squad a shining point on this team. Stand out, be leaders on this team. I want everybody to be a leader. And how do you do that? You empower somebody. So each and every person, help the next person with you, help this person get through this workout or something like that. And it's going to help the whole team if you be a leader, and each and every person being a leader, that's unbelievable. That's a good place to be.
Absolutely. I think, it probably like, even generationally, like, it probably used to be that way, and then now things have gotten super soft, and so bringing that would probably help balance it back into that happy medium.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm Bobby Knight or anything like that.
You're not chucking hurdles at kids.
No. I have seen that before from somebody, but I'm not that guy.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, I think that was it. Like I said, I could ask you a gazillion questions. I mean, I can even just tell just from talking that there's just like we got to the surface of all these different things, but they could just go even deeper. But that was really great. I appreciate you taking the time again. Hope other people.
My pleasure. Anything for a national champion, man. I'm just us people, D3 people have to stick together, man. So
represent.
You had a great career, and it was I'm very blessed to know you from Drake Relays and everything. You were doing some good stuff out there, and this track stuff, it's about relationships, and I'm very happy that we have one.
Yeah. Same. Thanks so much. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. All right. Well, you
My
take care. Have a good night. Hopefully you
All
get
right.
some
You
sleep.
too. Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
boss.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.